In the distant future, the galaxy is no longer a place of mystery. It has been explored, mapped, and controlled, mostly by one powerful ruler, Zira the Conqueror. Her name is whispered with awe and fear across star systems. She is more than a queen. She is a force of nature. Zira did not inherit her power, she earned it. She began with one planet, then two, and soon dozens followed. Her ships were sleek and fast, traveling through wormholes like birds flying through air. Her army, the Stellar Guard, was the most advanced in the galaxy, machines and humans working as one. Any planet that stood against her fell within days. Zira herself was a vision, tall, commanding, and beautiful in a cold, untouchable way. Her skin shimmered like moonlight. Her silver eyes could scan data faster than any computer. Her crown, crafted from the dust of dying stars, never left her head. But her most powerful weapon wasn't her army or her technology, it was her mind. Cold, sharp, and always 3 steps ahead. To the galaxy, she was a goddess. But inside, Zira felt nothing. She had never known love or friendship or even laughter. Her life was strategy, conquest, and control. She believed emotions were weaknesses, dangerous, messy things that slowed people down. So she buried hers long ago. But something strange began to happen after she conquered her 50th world. Victory no longer thrilled her. Power felt empty. She started asking herself silent questions. What else is left? What does any of this mean? Then a report came in. A tiny blue planet, rich in water, buzzing with emotion and filled with unpredictable creatures. Earth. Earth was not important by galactic standards. It had no major technology. Its people still argued over small things, but they had something Zira couldn't quite understand. They laughed, they cried, they created music, art, poetry, and fought wars not just for power, but for love and ideas. It was illogical and fascinating. Zira decided not to invade Earth immediately. She wanted to see it for herself. Not through data, not through reports. She would go there, land among the people, and understand what made humans tick. So her flagship, the Astralis, descended through Earth's atmosphere, casting a shadow across continents. It hovered silently above the clouds, silver and glowing, like a second moon. The world froze. Some countries raised their weapons. Others surrendered without a word. Every screen on Earth soon displayed her image, the Queen of Worlds, standing tall and expressionless, her voice calm as she spoke. "I come not for war," she said, her voice echoing across satellites and radios, but for understanding. And in that moment, the world held its breath. But while leaders gathered and people panicked, one man did not kneel. At a quiet beach in a small town by the sea, a human stood barefoot, staring up at the alien ship in the sky. He was not a soldier or scientist. He was a man with no power and no army. His name was Aaron Kai. Zira didn't know it yet, but everything she thought she knew about power, control, the universe, and herself was about to change. And it would all begin with a single human. The world was in shock. The Queen of Worlds had come to Earth. Every screen, every radio, every digital voice assistant echoed her message. "I come not for war," she had said, "but for understanding." But who could trust a conqueror? Zira had never shown mercy in her path across the stars. 50 planets had fallen before her. Millions had bowed. Some had resisted, but none had survived. And now here she was hovering above Earth in her silver ship, watching like a silent god. World leaders scrambled. Nations held emergency meetings. Some offered gifts, hoping to stay safe. Others raised weapons in secret, preparing for the worst. Across the globe, fear spread like wildfire. But on a quiet shore, far from the noise of cities and politics, one man stood still. His name was Aaron Kai, a painter who lived alone by the sea. He had no titles, no army, no weapons, just a calm heart and a curious mind. While the rest of the world bowed or hid, Aaron looked up at the massive ship floating above and felt no fear. He simply whispered, "She's looking for something, but she doesn't know what it is." He could feel it. In the way her voice had echoed, not cruel, but empty. In the way she hadn't fired a single shot. For a conqueror, she seemed lost. The next morning, Zira stepped onto Earth. She wore a robe of flowing silver and walked like someone who had never stumbled. Her guards flanked her, shining and tall, ready to strike at the smallest threat. But Earth offered none. People watched from a distance, unsure whether to run or cheer. Zira met with Earth's leaders in a quiet, neutral zone. She asked questions, listened, and observed. But she was not impressed. To her, their fear smelled like weakness. Their smiles felt fake. She was ready to leave, until she saw the man by the shore. He was sketching the sea, sitting on a rock with his feet in the sand. When Zira approached, her guards stepped forward, weapons humming, but the man didn't move. He didn't even look up. Zira narrowed her eyes. "You are not afraid of me?" she asked. "No," Erin said, finally meeting her gaze. "Should I be?" Zira tilted her head, curious. "Most people kneel, or run, or scream." Erin smiled faintly. "I don't believe in kneeling to strangers, especially ones who look like they haven't laughed in years." Her guards moved again, angry at the insult. But Zira held up a hand. "What do you know of me?" "Only what I see," Erin replied. "You're not here to conquer. You're searching." Zira stepped closer, studying him. "Searching for what?" "That," he said, "you'll have to find on your own." For the first time in a long, long while, Zira didn't have an answer. She didn't understand this man. And that bothered her. So she did something she had never done before. She invited a human aboard her ship. "Come," she said. "Let me show you the stars." Aaron stood, brushing sand from his hands. "And if I say no?" Zira smiled, not cruelly, but curiously. "Then you will be the first in history to deny the Queen of Worlds." Aaron looked at the sea, then at her. "All right," he said. "But I'm bringing my sketchbook." And just like that, the Queen of Worlds and a simple man from Earth began a journey that would change the fate of the galaxy. Not with war, not with weapons, but with words, wonder, and something far more dangerous than power: truth. The Queen of Worlds had invited a human onto her ship. It was a decision that shocked her guards, confused her advisors, and stirred whispers across Earth and beyond. Why would the most feared ruler in the galaxy, Zira the Conqueror, take an artist into her ship? Was he a hostage, a curiosity, or something more dangerous? But Zira didn't care about the rumors. She only cared about one thing: understanding Aaron Kai. The moment he stepped onto the Astralis, her flagship, something changed. The massive halls of glass and steel, once cold and silent, suddenly felt smaller, quieter. Aaron didn't flinch at the size of her army or the power humming through the walls. Instead, he looked at the ship with a quiet kind of wonder, like a child seeing snow for the first time. "This place," he said softly, sketching as he walked, "it's beautiful, but it doesn't feel alive." Zira raised an eyebrow. "It is a perfect machine. It has no flaws." "That's exactly what I mean," he replied. "No cracks, no color, no chaos. It's missing soul." No one had ever said that to her before. Her generals praised her ship as a marvel of science. Her enemies had surrendered at the sight of it. But Aaron looked past all that. He wasn't impressed by power. That made Zira curious and uneasy. She decided to test him. They left Earth behind and jumped across the stars. She took him to the sky gardens of Voltara, where plants floated in anti-gravity, glowing in the dark. Then to Xanthara, a planet of frozen storms and glittering ice towers. And finally to Drim, where lava flowed through crystal forests, burning hot but beautiful. Everywhere they went, Aaron sketched. Quiet, calm, observant. "You've seen what no human has seen before," Zira said one evening as the stars spun around them. "And still you do not worship me." Aaron looked up from his sketchpad. "I don't think the universe was made for worship. I think it was made for wonder." Zira fell silent. She had fought wars over stars like these, killed for control, bled for victory. But Aaron didn't want to control anything. He just wanted to understand it, capture it in a line, a curve, a moment of peace. The more time she spent with him, the more questions filled her mind. Why didn't he fear her? Why didn't he try to impress her? What made his heart feel so light, while hers felt heavy, like it had always been carrying something invisible? One night, standing in the ship's observation dome, Zira finally asked, "Why don't you fear me?" Aaron looked at her, truly looked at her. "Because fear is for people who have something to lose, and I don't think you want what I have." "And what is it that you have?" she asked. "Freedom," he said simply. Zira didn't know what to say. For the first time in years, she was speechless. This human, this simple man with ink-stained fingers, was unshaken by her power, and worse, he made her question her own. She had always believed that strength was in control, in fear, in silence. But Erin seemed to live in a world where strength came from letting go. And slowly the walls she had built around her heart, stone by stone, over many years began to crack. Just a little, but enough. Enough for something dangerous to slip in. Doubt. Zira the Conqueror had changed, but not everyone could see it. At least, not yet. From the outside, the Astralis still looked the same. Vast halls of silver, glowing panels, and perfectly organized systems. Zira still wore her crown of stardust. Her army still stood at attention. Her voice still carried command. But inside her, deep where no scanner or shield could reach, a quiet battle had begun. And it wasn't the kind of war she knew how to fight. Zira found herself thinking about Aaron Kai even when he wasn't around. His words echoed in her mind at night, soft but sharp. "You're not looking to rule this world," he had said once. "You're looking for something you lost long ago." She didn't understand how he could see through her. All her life, she had worn armor, not just on her body, but on her soul. She was untouchable, emotionless, perfect. Or so she believed. But now she noticed things she never had before. The way silence felt heavy when Aaron wasn't speaking, the way starlight looked different when he pointed it out, the way a moment of laughter, a real one, small and awkward, could make her chest ache in a way battles never had. For the first time in her life, Zira was learning something terrifying. She was lonely. And loneliness was not something a queen could afford. Her generals noticed the change first. "She spends too much time with the human," one whispered. "She asks questions instead of giving orders," another muttered. "She's becoming soft." The whispers turned into doubts, the doubts became warnings, and soon reports came in. Unrest on the outer planets, a governor refusing to follow orders, a colony raising a secret militia. They had all sensed it. The Queen of Worlds was hesitating. Zira tried to stay in control. She told herself this was just a phase, curiosity, a detour. But then something dangerous happened. One of her oldest allies, General Cal, stood in front of her and spoke the words no one had ever dared say. "Your judgment is clouded, my queen. The human must be removed." Zira stared at him in silence, her expression unreadable, her silver eyes cold. "Say that again," she said softly. Cal hesitated. "You are changing Zira. This man, he is weakening you. You were made to rule, not to feel." The room fell silent. A part of Zira wanted to agree, to return to the icy strength that had built her empire. But another part, a quiet, growing flame, knew Cal was wrong. Feeling didn't make her weak. It made her real. Still, she couldn't ignore the truth. Her empire was fracturing. All because of one man. Zira found Aaron on the observation deck that evening. He was painting the stars again, quiet and calm as always. Without looking up, he said, "Your people are afraid. They think I've changed you." Zira didn't deny it. "They're right." He turned to her. "And you? Are you afraid?" She paused, then nodded. "I've ruled for so long, I forgot what it meant to live," she whispered. Aaron smiled gently. "Then maybe it's time you start." And in that quiet moment, beneath a sky full of stars she once claimed as her own, Zira realized the truth. She was no longer fighting a war with weapons or armies. She was fighting a war within herself, between the queen she was and the person she might become. The storm was coming, not outside the ship, but within the empire. Across distant planets, Zira's name once brought silence and obedience. But now, after weeks of her strange silence, her closeness to a human, and her refusal to conquer Earth, whispers had turned to revolt. Her generals grew restless. Her council demanded action. Her enemies began to rise. And now a decision waited before her, sharp as a blade. Would she return to the conqueror's path and crush the doubt with force? Or would she walk a new road, one with no map, where strength came not from power, but from change? It began with a message. A rebel fleet had gathered on the outer rim of her territory. They called themselves a Free Worlds Alliance. They believed Zira was no longer fit to rule. They offered her one chance, step down or be removed. For a ruler like Zira, it was a laughable threat. And yet, she did not laugh. Instead, she stood at the edge of the observation deck, stars swirling outside like snow, and thought about all she had built, and all she might lose. Aaron stood beside her, quiet as always, but watchful. "You could destroy them," he said. "You have the power." "Yes," Zira replied. "But I don't know if I have the will." "Then ask yourself this," he said, turning to her. "What kind of queen do you want to be? The one who rules through fear, or the one who chooses something greater?" Zira turned those words over in her mind. They struck deeper than any weapon ever could. She had spent her whole life thinking power was everything. That peace came only after total control. But now she wondered, had she ever truly known peace herself? In the heart of the Australis, Zira called a meeting of her highest commanders. They stood around her, stoic, armored, ready to follow orders. "I know some of you doubt me," she said, her voice calm but sharp. "You think I've changed, that I've lost my edge." The room stayed silent, though a few pairs of eyes flickered with tension. "You're right," she continued. "I have changed." Gasps whispered through the air. "But I haven't grown weaker. I've grown aware. I've seen a world without war, a man without fear, and I've seen that control isn't the same as peace." She took a breath. "So I will not launch missiles. I will not burn cities to keep my throne. I will not kill to protect a crown made from stars." The room stirred, half in shock, half in admiration. "If you want to leave," she said, "go, I will not stop you." And some did. But many stayed, because though they feared change, they respected courage even more. Aaron found her alone later that night. "You made your choice," he said softly. She nodded. "For once I chose not to conquer. I chose to become something else." "Something better," he said. She smiled faintly. "Maybe. Or maybe just something truer." But just as Zira stepped into this new chapter, danger rose again. A spy aboard the ship, one loyal to the old ways, had sent a message to the rebels. Aaron Kai, the human, was the reason behind her transformation, and now they wanted him dead. The queen had made her choice, but choices always come with a cost. And the real test of her change had only just begun. The queen had made her choice. She chose understanding over fear, compassion over control. She chose to change. But in the galaxy Zira ruled, change always came with a cost. The message from the spy spread quickly across the rebel fleet. The queen no longer follows the path of power. Her heart is clouded by a human. Remove him, and the queen will fall. For the rebels, it was a gift. They no longer had to face Zira's fleets or crack her defenses. They only needed to break one bond, the quiet connection between a ruler of stars and a human who painted them. Aaron Kai had unknowingly become the center of the storm. Inside the Australis, Zara felt the threat before it was even confirmed. Her ship's sensors picked up a breach. A single stealth vessel, smaller than a fighter, had slipped through shields under a false signature. She knew instantly what it meant. "They're not here for me," she said grimly. "They're here for him." She rushed through the corridors, her silver cloak flying behind her like comet trails. She found Aaron exactly where she feared he'd be, on the quiet garden deck, sketching the glowing plants they had collected from across the stars. "Aaron," she called, voice sharp. He looked up surprised. "What's wrong?" "No time," she said. "You're in danger. Come with me." But before they could move, the lights above dimmed, and from the shadows, a figure emerged. The assassin was silent, cloaked in black armor laced with red energy. Not a rebel soldier, but a Shadowborn, trained only to kill high-value targets. Aaron stepped back instinctively. Zira stepped forward. "I won't let you touch him," she said coldly. The assassin lunged. Zira met the strike head-on. What followed was a battle not of armies, but of souls. The Queen of Worlds, who had fought in planetary wars, now fought with a fury deeper than duty. She wasn't defending her crown. She wasn't defending her pride. She was defending someone she cared for. The duel blazed through the garden deck, glass shattering, plants burning in glowing flame. Aaron stayed low, trying to stay clear. But he never took his eyes off Zira. He had never seen her like this. Not distant, not regal, but human, fierce, alive. She won. Barely. The assassin lay crumpled, armor smoking. Zira stood shaking, blood on her arm, her breath heavy. Aaron rushed to her, grabbing her hands. "You're hurt." "I'm fine," she said, though her voice was raw. "Are you?" He nodded. "Why? Why would they come for me?" "Because you changed me," she said, "and to them that's the real danger." Later, in her private chamber, Zira stood before the stars, wounded but thoughtful. Aaron sat nearby, quiet as always. "This is what it costs," she said finally, "to feel, to care, to love." Aaron looked at her. "Would you take it back?" She turned to him slowly. "No." Her voice was soft. "Sure. I've conquered 50 worlds. I've broken empires. But only now do I feel truly alive, and I will protect that feeling, no matter what it costs me." Aaron reached out, placing his hand on hers. For once, she didn't pull away. Outside, across the galaxy, enemies gathered. But inside the heart of the Australis, something stronger had taken root. Not fear, not control, but connection. Zira was no longer just a queen. She was a protector, a partner, a person learning to feel. And soon she would face the greatest battle of her life, not for power, but for everything she had finally come to love. The galaxy was on the edge of war. Rebels had risen, old allies had turned away, and a once invincible queen now stood at a crossroads. Zira, Queen of Worlds, had changed. But to the galaxy, change looked like weakness. Her enemies were ready to strike. Her fleets were outnumbered. And at the center of it all stood a single human, Aaron Kai, the artist who had never picked up a weapon, the man who had never asked for power, the one who had unknowingly changed everything. The rebels launched their final attack under a sky lit by dying stars. Hundreds of warships dropped from hyperspace, surrounding the Australis, Zira's flagship. Their leader, General Kale, once her closest ally, broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. "The Queen has lost her way. She chooses weakness over order. We rise today to restore strength." Across the stars, people watched, waiting for the Queen to answer. Would she run? Would she fight? Or would she surrender? Inside the Australis, silence held its breath. Then Zira stepped forward, standing before the galaxy with Aaron at her side. She activated the comms and spoke, her voice calm, clear, and filled with strength of a different kind. "I have ruled through fear, through fire, through silence. But today I speak not as a conqueror, but as someone who has finally learned what peace means. And I will not raise my hand to destroy it." Shock rippled across the fleets. Some called it madness, others, courage. Cal sneered and gave the order, "Destroy the Australis." The attack began. But Zira was not unprepared. She had let her enemies think she was weak. But while they prepared for war, she had been building something new. She had reached out to the planets she once ruled with fear. And this time, she offered something else, hope. And they answered. One by one, ships from once silent worlds emerged. Voltara, Drim, even distant Earth. They didn't come to conquer. They came to protect the new queen. Zira's fleet tripled in size in minutes. And for the first time, the rebels were not just facing a ruler, they were facing the will of a galaxy that had finally tasted something better than fear, freedom. The battle that followed was like none before. No planets burned, no cities fell. Zira's forces used precision, shields, and strategy to disable, not destroy. She ordered no deaths. Only captures, only defenses. Her message was clear. We are not your enemies, but we will not bow again to war. And in the heart of that war, she stood on the bridge, Aaron beside her, calm despite the chaos. He had never held a weapon, but his presence reminded her what she was fighting for. Not territory, not victory, but a future. At last, Cal's ship was surrounded. He refused to surrender, until Zira herself appeared on his screen, eyes burning with a new kind of fire. "I spared your life once," she said. "Don't make me regret it." Cal lowered his weapon. The war was over. Days later, the galaxy watched again, this time not for a battle, but for a declaration. Zira stood before millions, no longer crowned with stardust, but with something brighter, clarity. "I was the Queen of Worlds. Now I am their guardian. We will not rule through fear, but through unity, through choice, through peace." The galaxy didn't just hear her. They believed her. That night, as stars drifted quietly beyond the windows of her ship, Zira sat with Aaron on the observation deck. No armor, no crown, just two people, watching the universe they helped change. I never thought I'd find my equal, she said softly. Aaron smiled. Maybe you didn't. She looked at him. Maybe, he said, you found something even stronger. And in that moment, the Queen of Worlds realized the truth. Power can conquer planets, but love can change them.